Have you ever noticed how the people who try to provoke you end up exposing themselves? They nudge, they twist your words, they wait for a reaction. But what if I told you that the moment you stop reacting is the moment they reveal who they really are? It's like watching a spider spin its web, so carefully, so quietly, believing no one sees the trap. But leave it long enough, and the morning sun will reveal every thread. Or imagine a leaking pipe in an empty house. No shouting, no chaos, just a slow drip that eventually floods the floor. That's how deception works. It doesn't scream, it seeps. And silence? It's the light that makes the damage visible. That's why you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. Because while they're busy trying to expose you, you have a choice. Argue your worth or let their actions reveal theirs. And when you choose stillness, that's when the mask slips. When you stop engaging, they start unraveling. So how do you let someone expose themselves? Without shouting, without defending, without saying a word. Stay until the end, because the last one will forever change how you respond to manipulation. Let's get started. Number 1. When someone twists your words. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating and manipulative behaviors, someone who twists your words. It doesn't always start with a big argument or some dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it begins quietly. You say something honest, calm, clear, with good intent, and somehow, by the time it comes back to you, your words are poisoned. They've been reshaped, exaggerated, and taken out of context, all in a way that serves someone else's agenda. And when you find out, your first instinct is to defend yourself, to clarify, to explain what you really meant. But here's the hard truth. If someone is twisting your words deliberately, they already know what you meant. They're not confused, they're creating confusion. Here's what you need to understand. The moment someone chooses to misrepresent what you say, they've revealed more about themselves than they ever could through honesty. They're not looking for truth, they're looking for ammunition. They don't care about understanding, they care about control. And when you start defending yourself against a distortion of your own words, you step right into their trap. Because the more you try to explain, the more material they get to twist. And before you know it, you're in a battle you never asked for, one where the truth isn't even the point anymore. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest strength. Seneca once said, "The truth is not harmed by silence, only lies demand noise." That means you don't always need to speak up when someone tries to twist your narrative. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is go silent. Not in weakness, not in surrender, but in strategy. When you stop giving them more to twist, they're left with only their own words. And the thing about people who play games is they always overplay their hand. Given enough time and space, they expose themselves. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Emily, once had a colleague named Rachel who consistently distorted her words. In meetings, Rachel would say things like, "Well, Emily said we should cancel the project entirely," when all Emily had suggested was rethinking the timeline. At first, Emily tried to correct her. She'd send follow-up emails, repeat herself, try to clear the air. But the more she did, the more Rachel twisted. So eventually, Emily stopped explaining. She spoke clearly, documented what mattered, and let Rachel keep talking. And soon, people started noticing. Without pushback, Rachel had no one to argue with, only her own contradictions. Eventually, she exposed herself, not because Emily fought back, but because she didn't. So when someone twists your words, don't chase, don't argue. Let them speak, let the silence stretch, because the truth doesn't panic, it stands still. And given time, lies always unravel themselves. Number 2, when you're surrounded by gossip. Let's talk about one of the clearest times when you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. when you're surrounded by gossip. It's a strange thing how people are so quick to speak about you, yet so hesitant to speak to you. Whispers replace truth, assumptions replace facts, and before you know it, you become a character in someone else's fiction. The instinct, of course, is to respond, to defend yourself, to correct the lies, to chase every rumor down and shut it down. But here's the reality: you can't control what people say about you, and trying to fight every lie only drags you down to the level of those who spread them. Here's the truth: the people who really know you, who value you, who walk with you, they don't need explanations. They see your life, your consistency, your values. And the ones who eagerly believe gossip, they were never with you to begin with. They weren't neutral, they were just waiting for a reason to walk away. So why waste your breath defending yourself to those who already chose to misunderstand you? This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest ally. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Let time prove your character. Words are fleeting, but conduct endures." And he was right. You don't silence rumors with arguments. You silence them by refusing to participate. You let your life speak louder than their stories, because in the end, lies need an audience. When you don't play the game, when you don't defend or react, gossip loses its power. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Jessica, was once the target of cruel gossip at her workplace. It started small, one person questioning her promotion, another claiming she was favored by management. Before long, the rumors spread. People who used to speak to her now kept their distance. Jessica thought about defending herself, sending emails, calling meetings, trying to fix her reputation, but instead, she chose silence. She kept working, kept showing up, kept being herself. And slowly, the truth surfaced. The people who watched her closely began to see the difference between the person they'd heard about and the one they were seeing every day. And the ones who kept whispering? They exposed themselves for what they were: jealous, bitter, and afraid of her growth. So when gossip surrounds you, don't waste your energy trying to chase down every lie. Don't shrink yourself to make others feel comfortable with their ignorance. Just stay still, stay silent, and stay true. Because when you refuse to explain what time will reveal on its own, the truth becomes undeniable, and in the end, that's all that will matter. Number 3, when someone publicly insults you. Let's talk about one of the hardest moments where you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. When someone publicly insults you. It could be in a meeting, on social media, at a family dinner. Wherever it happens, it hits deep. There's a sudden silence in the room, and every eye turns to you. Someone's words were sharp, meant to embarrass you, to draw blood in front of others. And naturally, your instinct is to react, to clap back, to fire something even sharper. But what if I told you that the most powerful move you can make is none at all? Here's the truth: when someone insults you publicly, what they're really revealing is their own instability. Their need to attack, especially in front of others, is less about you and more about their own insecurity. They need a crowd. They need a moment. Because without attention, their insults are empty. But when you stay calm, when you refuse to respond, you take away the very thing they were hoping for. Suddenly, the spotlight shifts. The louder they get, the more obvious their chaos becomes. And your silence, it becomes a mirror reflecting everything they're trying to hide. This is where Stoic wisdom shows up in full force. Epictetus once said, "He who remains calm while being attacked reveals the storm in his attacker." Think about that. Your composure becomes a kind of truth serum. It exposes their intentions, their frustration, their desperation. Because when someone lashes out and you don't flinch, it leaves them alone with their noise. And that silence, it's deafening. Let me tell you about a guy I know. Let's call him Daniel. A few years ago, during a team presentation, one of his co-workers, someone who had always been quietly competitive, called him out in front of the group. The insult was slick, disguised as a joke, but everyone could feel the tension. Daniel could have responded. He could have defended himself, made a scene, or returned the jab, but instead he just smiled, nodded, and kept going. He didn't dignify the moment with a reaction. Later, more than one person from that room came up to him and said, "You handled that with class." And that co-worker? Everyone saw him differently after that. Not because of what Daniel said, but because of what he didn't. So when someone insults you publicly, don't fight fire with fire. Let your stillness speak. Let their volume make the room uncomfortable. Because in moments like that, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And when you choose not to play their game, they expose themselves every time. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a "thank God" and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 4. When someone lies about you. Let's talk about one of the clearest times when you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. When someone lies about you. There's nothing more infuriating than hearing false stories being spread in your name. They misquote you, twist situations, and sometimes even invent entire conversations you never had. And the worst part, people believe them. It shakes you. You feel misunderstood, disrespected, maybe even betrayed. And the impulse to defend yourself grows loud. Explain your side, correct the record, expose their lie. But here's what the wise know. Liars build their own downfall. All you have to do is let them. Here's the truth. When someone lies about you, they start a chain they cannot easily stop. One lie leads to another, then another. Eventually, they're juggling contradictions, trying to keep the illusion alive. And the more they talk, the more tangled they get. That's why silence is powerful. It doesn't mean you accept the lie. It means you trust time to reveal the truth. It means you're not going to cheapen your truth by shouting over their noise. Seneca once wrote, "The liar weaves a web so tangled, only his silence can set him free." But liars rarely go silent, do they? They keep talking, they keep spinning, and every word exposes another inconsistency. That's why your silence becomes your strength. It forces them to keep explaining, keep inventing, until eventually their own words betray them. You don't need to fight their illusion. You just need to stay real, stay calm, and let their fiction fall apart under its own weight. Let me tell you about someone. His name's Marcus. A co-worker of his started spreading lies behind his back, claiming Marcus was stealing credit for work he hadn't done. At first, Marcus was furious. He wanted to call a meeting, confront him, clear the air in front of everyone. But instead, he paused. He chose not to react. Not publicly, not immediately. He kept showing up, doing his work with clarity and consistency. Over time, the truth surfaced. The co-worker's story changed depending on who he talked to. Little details didn't add up. Eventually, someone asked Marcus about it privately, and he shared his side, calmly, with evidence. No drama, no panic. And guess what? The co-worker lost all credibility, not because Marcus fought him, but because Marcus refused to engage in the lie. So if someone lies about you, don't rush to scream your truth. Let your actions speak. Let their lies unravel, because the longer they talk, the deeper they dig their own hole. And when the truth finally surfaces, as it always does, it won't need noise. It'll speak loud enough on its own. Number 5. When you're being provoked intentionally. Let's talk about one of the most important moments when you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. When you're being provoked intentionally. Some people don't want clarity. They don't want understanding. What they want is your reaction. They want you angry, off balance, impulsive, because the second you explode, they win. It doesn't matter who was right. It doesn't matter what actually happened. All they need is for you to lose control just once so they can point and say, "See, that's who they really are." And the worst part, you'll feel it. That slow build, that push, that smirk that says, "Go ahead, take the bait." But here's the truth. Some arguments aren't meant to be resolved. They're designed to trap you, crafted to stir something in you you've worked hard to outgrow. And when you sense that kind of energy, your silence is not weakness. It's clarity. It's power. Because silence in that moment isn't passive, it's intentional. It's you choosing not to let someone else write your character. Marcus Aurelius once said, "To respond without reason is to become what you despise." That means when you react just to defend your pride or to shut someone down or to win the moment, you're giving up your center. And for what? A quick comeback? A brief moment of satisfaction? Stoics knew that true strength comes from restraint, from knowing you could respond and choosing not to. Let me tell you about someone I knew. His name's Tyler. He worked in customer service, and there was this one regular customer who seemed to enjoy pushing his buttons. Every week, the guy would come in with a new complaint, a new accusation, a new insult. One day, the man raised his voice and insulted Tyler's intelligence in front of a packed line. You could see the tension in Tyler's jaw. Everyone waited for his reaction, but Tyler didn't say a word. He just looked at the man, nodded, and calmly finished the transaction. No sarcasm, no defensiveness, just stillness. And what happened? The man stumbled over his next sentence, lost steam, mumbled something and left. And later, a co-worker leaned over and said, "Man, I don't know how you kept it together, but that was powerful." So when someone tries to provoke you, pause, breathe. Remember, they're trying to pull you out of yourself. Don't hand them that power. Let their chaos fill the room. Let their noise echo into silence. Because when you don't respond, when you stay grounded and calm, the game ends. And all that's left is them, exposed, alone with their own fire. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 6, when people brag or exaggerate to impress. Let's talk about one of the more subtle moments when you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. When people brag or exaggerate just to impress you. You've probably felt it before. Someone walks into the room and suddenly the stories start flowing. Every sentence begins with "I," and somehow every moment of their life becomes a highlight reel. They talk louder. They stretch the truth. They name drop. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice something. They're not really talking to you. They're performing for approval, for validation, for some version of respect they don't believe they've actually earned. Here's the truth. Bragging is rarely about celebration. It's almost always about insecurity. People who feel whole don't need to convince others of their worth. But those who feel unseen, unsure, or less than, they often overcompensate with noise. And when you stay silent in the face of that noise, it unsettles them. Because they expect admiration, applause, some verbal confirmation that their exaggerations worked. But when none comes, when your silence fills the space instead of your agreement, they're left alone with their illusion. And that silence? It's louder than any reaction. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your compass. Epictetus once said, "True strength needs no announcement. The weak shout to hear their own worth." What he meant was simple. Those who are truly strong don't need to say a word. Their actions speak. Their energy is enough. But those who are unsure, they seek worth in the reaction of others. They chase significance by narrating it. Let me tell you about someone I know. His name's Brian. He worked in finance, and every Friday the team would go out for drinks. There was a guy on the team, let's call him Jake, who always talked about the money he made, the deals he closed, the high-end clients he worked with. At first, everyone laughed and nodded, but Brian never joined in. He never challenged Jake, never tried to outdo him, just stayed quiet, listened politely, and sipped his drink. After a few weeks, something shifted. Jake started asking Brian more questions, trying to figure out what Brian really did, how much he made, who he knew. It became clear that Jake was insecure, and Brian's silence made that even more obvious. So when people brag around you, don't feel the need to match their energy. Don't shrink, don't escalate, and don't flatter what's clearly inflated. Just stay grounded. Because your calm, your stillness, your refusal to perform, that's what exposes the performance in them. Let them hear their own echo. Let them face their own need for attention. Number 7. When someone tries to justify betrayal. Let's talk about one of the most revealing moments when you should stay silent and let people expose themselves. When someone tries to justify betrayal. It's that strange twist where the person who hurt you suddenly steps forward, not with an apology, but with a defense. They shift the blame. They paint themselves as the misunderstood one. They say things like, "I had no choice," or "You brought this on yourself." And the worst part, they don't even seem ashamed. They seem rehearsed, like they've been building a case in their head for weeks. But here's what they're really doing. They're talking over their own guilt, hoping their voice drowns out the silence you haven't broken yet. Here's the truth. People who truly believe they did the right thing don't feel the need to over-explain it. They may share their perspective, but they won't try to manipulate yours. But those who wronged you, who know they crossed a line, they rush to narrate the betrayal in a way that paints them as the victim, or worse, the hero. And this is why your silence is so powerful. Because when you don't argue, when you don't defend or react, they're left with nothing but their words echoing into stillness. And that silence, it forces them to sit with the one thing they can't escape: themselves. Seneca once said, "A clean conscience makes no speeches." And he was right. People with nothing to hide don't need to justify their actions. But when guilt is present, the mouth moves faster than the heart. They're not explaining for your benefit. They're trying to convince themselves. And your silence makes that even harder for them to do. Let me tell you about someone. His name's Olivia. She had a close friend who, after months of building trust, went behind her back and shared private information in a group chat. When Olivia confronted her, the friend didn't deny it, but immediately launched into a speech about how Olivia was too sensitive, how it was just a joke, and how she was overreacting. Olivia didn't say much. She just looked at her, calm, unmoved, and walked away. Weeks later, that same friend tried to reach out again, not to reconnect, but to explain, still justifying, still trying to ease her own guilt. But Olivia didn't respond. Her silence spoke everything that needed to be said. So when someone betrays you and tries to rewrite the story, don't correct them. Don't plead for understanding. Let them talk. Let them fill the space with rehearsed words, because your silence isn't weakness, it's a mirror, and eventually they'll have to face what they see in it, alone. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply.